That was Martinez. Why are we- Okay. On the record in the matter, the people of the state of Michigan versus Daniel Martinez, file number 23-01304. Council appearance.
Thank you. Good morning, Your Honor. Erin Housefield on behalf of the people standing in for APA Alish Gallagher.
Hey, good morning, Your Honor. Stephen Mills on behalf of Daniel Martinez, who is not present at this time. Just so the court know, he is currently housed at Newaygo Jail. It's been my understanding that there was an issue just regarding the writ, and he's not been brought over. But I believe the people were going to make a request for an adjournment today, either way.
Thank you.
That is correct, Your Honor. Thank you. I understand that this matter was reset from last week to today at defense counsel's request. The day after the last week's hearing, Ms. Gallagher learned from the victim's mother that the victim was hospitalized. That has been shared with Mr. Milks. The updated information from the mother as of yesterday is that she may be transferred due to a medical procedure. She's expected to be in the hospital for approximately 3 weeks. So understanding that certainly the case cannot go forward today, but the people would ask that this matter be set approximately 3 or 4 weeks from now so that the victim may be out of the hospital and appear before the court.
It appears that we did address the timeline back in May of 2023. And so due to the circumstances, then we need at least a couple of weeks for a new writ anyways. We should probably get to the bottom of what the writ issue was that they magically figured out
Yeah,
today.
that's fair. Rumor has it that there was an issue with the writing of the address or something. I'm not
Of the writ?
something along those lines.
I don't see actually that it looks like there's an issue here. I'm looking at this writ. I don't see where it says he's in custody at. That's the problem. Doesn't say it on the writ. Nonetheless, we'll make sure a new writ is issued and we'll set it out 4 weeks out. To August 11th at 9. August 11th at 9 a.m. Okay. Any additional matters today?
Nothing for the people, Your Honor. Thank you.
Nothing from the defense. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're all set. Mr. Milks, you have one at 1:30 though.
I do, yes. And he's MDOC. So I believe you can be brought over later.
He'll be right over. Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I'll wait.
Morning, sir. Good, how are you?
Okay, I see Mr. Prince has 2 different matters, but we're not ready on any of them yet. Should probably take these
Very
down.
good.
Well, we're gonna keep that one. We'll put this one back out at 1:30 for Mr. Milks.
That thing.
I don't want him to
Andrew,
forget.
remember that conversation we had regarding Tom Brady or something was only loathed?
Whoa.
It was like
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. He would never say
That's
that.
what he said.
He
said
would
hates
never
him
say
so
that.
much.
Mills was just found guilty of.
That was an attempt to entrap him.
It was terrible. Just terrible.
How
Kristen.
too funny. Where'd you get that from?
Boston much then, John?
Actually, this came from Boston.
Imported?
Funny thing, look at the colors. No, my brother, let me make sure I get it. My brother worked There's nobody in the hallway for the civil matter, correct, Erica Brown?
She said no.
Okay, we're on the record. In the matter of Credit Acceptance Corporation versus Erica Brown, and this is file number 23-00187 GCE, council appearance.
Good morning, Your Honor. Navjot Francis on behalf of Plaintiff's Attorney of Record P72322.
Thank you. Today was the date and the time that was set for a motion for summary disposition. We received the plaintiff's motion for summary disposition. We do not have a responsive motion filed by the defense, nor has the defense appeared today. This matter was scheduled for 10 o'clock. It's currently 10:11. How would you like to proceed?
Your Honor, we would ask for our motion to be granted at this time.
The motion for summary will be granted by default judgment. And would you provide an order?
I
I don't
don't
see
think,
one.
I don't think so, Your Honor.
Okay, if you could provide an order under the 7-day rule, please.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Any additional matters for the record today?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You as well.
The record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus John Khalil Leonard, file number 23-01093. Council appearance.
Good morning, Your Honor. Kristen Rolfe on behalf of the people.
Hey, good morning, Your Honor. Dustin Quinn for John Khalil Leonard, who's seated here to my right.
Okay, today was the date that was reset for a preliminary examination, and there's a motion to adjourn.
Yes, Your Honor, on behalf of the people. Your Honor, I'm asking for a brief adjournment. I will note, it does appear that subpoenas went out on this case, but I do not have the mother of the victim or any of the victim's family here either. So I don't know if there was a notice issue on our end, but I do not have any of my subpoenaed witnesses present here today in court. So I am asking for a brief adjournment. I know that there are summer vacations. I certainly cannot confirm or deny if any of these witnesses are on vacation, but I know it is summer. So I would just ask the court for a brief adjournment to allow me to figure out what's going on. Oh, and for the record, Your Honor, there are some outstanding discovery issues that we still hope to come in. We have a phone extraction, some surveillance videos that also will be forthcoming.
Mr. Quinn.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I've discussed the matter with my client. I've discussed the possibilities of what can happen when the people are requesting an adjournment, including that if this were to be dismissed, it would likely be reissued. In my conversations with Ms. Rolfe, I think it's very likely it would be reissued. So for that reason and the other reasons Ms. Rolfe stated on the record, we're not asking for dismissal at this point. I guess we'll leave the adjournment in the court's discretion.
No, sounds.
And I'm sorry, one more thing, Your Honor. My client's mother is here in the courtroom. She lives in Texas. She did come, I think she came specifically for this court date this time. She's actually going to be back in Michigan the first week of August. So I think the court usually holds prelims on Thursdays and Fridays. I think that's the 3rd and 4th. So I don't know if that's enough time for the people, but I know my client and his mother would appreciate it if the court could accommodate that schedule, but if not, we understand.
Sounds like a good deal.
Okay.
So it's August 18th at 8:30. He said his mother's coming the first week of August.
I think it's the 2nd through the 6th of the United States, so that's a weekend, and then Wednesday.
I don't know if that's too soon. Yeah, I think next week it might be too soon for them to subpoena, correct?
I think so.
Yes. You said she's coming until the 6th of August.
That's right, which is a Sunday. So
I was gonna say the best I could do is put it on the 7th, but we have jury trial scheduled on that date. So the earliest we can do at this point is the 18th, you said? Yes. August 18th at 8:30.
for me, thank you, Your Honor.
No problem. Any additional matters for the record today?
Not on behalf of the people. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. We'll get you a copy of your notice to appear. Sir? From the record in the matter of the people of the state of Michigan versus Nicholas Stone, file number 23-01305 FY, council appearance.
Morning, Your Honor. Jeff Raddatz on behalf of the people. And good morning, Your Honor. Dustin Coons for Nicholas Stone, who's seated here to my right.
Today is the date and the time set for preliminary examination. I also have a PA 53 contempt violation. Are we ready to proceed today?
Yes, we are, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, any preliminary matters?
Just briefly, Your Honor, just so the court is aware, the people will, I guess, be moving to dismiss on the complaint counts 1, which would be weapons, firearms, short-barreled shotgun / rifle, and count 4, which is the weapons felony firearm that is associated with count 1, and the people would only be asking to bind over at this prelim on counts 2, 3, 5, and 6.
Okay. Any other preliminary matters for the people?
Nothing from the people, Your Honor.
Okay, and Mr. Coots?
Just sequestration of the witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay, sequestration is granted. How many witnesses do you have today?
2 for the purposes of this preliminary exam.
There's
Your
no one
Honor.
in the courtroom now, correct?
No, there.
Okay, you can call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people would call Mr. Lance Schnaber. No, they're down there in the back.
You raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes.
You can have a seat there. Okay, there's a microphone that's in front of you, and behind you is my court reporter. She has to take down everything being stated here today. So all of your responses must be verbal. They need to be loud and clear so that we can hear beyond that glass partition, okay? And then all of your, again, responses should be verbal because we cannot write head nods and head shakes or ahs into the record, okay? Your voice is really low. Did you pick that up?
Sorry, yes.
Okay, you gotta speak so we can pick it up, okay? Okay, and then also if there's an objection by either of the attorneys, you would stop responding. I'll give you directions as to whether or not you can give that response after making a ruling on the objection, okay? Okay, please state your first and last name, spell both of them.
Lance Schnaber,
Spell them.
LanceShinaver.
You can proceed, Counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Morning, Mr. Schnaber.
Morning.
Mr. Schnaber, how are you employed?
From the 1941 West.
Okay, and what's your exact position with Board of Water and Light?
Mechanic A.
Okay, and can you describe a little bit about what that position entails?
We make sure the water, everything, all the pipes, everything, meters, hydrants, everything's good for the public, so they're safe drinking water.
And so does this position require you to do any sort of field work?
Yes.
Okay.
All the time.
And were you employed in that position on April 24th, 2023?
Yes, sir.
All right, and were you working in the field on that day?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you recall where you were working on that day?
We were on Rouse that road that day, but in that whole neighborhood.
Okay. You specifically mentioned Rouse Street. Did something happen on that street that was eventful that day?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that location on Rouse Street, is that located in the city of Lansing
Yes, sir.
and in Ingham County?
Yes, sir.
So what happened on that date on Rouse Street that made it, I guess, that sticks out in your mind?
A man came out with a gun.
Okay. So we'll back up just a little bit. So what specifically were you doing on Rouse on that day?
We are doing DSMIs.
And
We
what
go
are
to
DSMIs?
we go to houses. The state of Michigan requires, actually, it's not the state of Michigan, it's the federal, requires us to go to random houses that they pick of their choosing. And we have to dig up or back with a back truck on each side of the curb box to make sure it's not lead. If it is lead, we have to replace it. Then we have to go inside to make sure going through the wall where the meter is, that is not lead. If it's lead, then we have to replace that.
Okay. And do you recall a specific address you were doing this work in front of on Rouse?
I think it was 311,
Okay.
I believe.
Okay, so you're performing this work, you're digging along the curb, correct?
Backing,
Okay,
we were on the sidewalk.
okay,
The curb box was in the middle of the sidewalk. So we have to back on each side of it.
okay. And and then I guess you said, all right, somebody came out of that address with a shotgun.
Yeah.
Can you describe that interaction for the court?
Well, me,
Oh, sorry.
me and three other men were backing up to one side. We just pulled up, just started. So we maybe were a foot down. And everyone's facing me and I'm facing the other way. And the gentleman comes out with a shotgun. And so then I see him first, that another guys, I start waving my hand at them to stop and tell my boss. And then he turns around, my boss does, and goes and confronts him to talk to him.
I'm just gonna back up just for a second. So you mentioned you were vacuuming, I'm assuming it's vacuuming?
It's a
Can you explain
big
that?
vac truck. It has a tank on it, so it's like a big shot vac. It sucks the dirt out of the ground.
Okay, and then can you, just for the court, can you describe you mentioned a curb box, can you describe what that is?
It is what we do to control the water going inside. So they have a problem inside their house. We can shut that off and turn it back on. So it's underground, but the board we own all the way up to the meter inside the house on every service. So we have to maintain all that.
All right, so just I guess for a little clarification, so the curb box is something that's, I believe you said it was in the sidewalk that could be used to turn the water on and off. Okay. So now getting back to the incident, you said, you saw the gentleman come out of the house with a shotgun. Did he say anything to you at that time?
At the time,
Yes.
I had earplugs in from the loud vac truck and everything. So I didn't hear him. I didn't see any mouth moving or anything either. But then my foreman boss went and talked to him.
Okay, and could you overhear any of that conversation?
Not right away, no.
Okay,
Not until we started shutting the vac down. I took the earplugs out.
Okay, so when you shut the back truck down, you took your earplugs out. Did you hear the gentleman say anything at that time?
Then we shut the back truck down. We said, we're leaving, we're leaving. Then he says, not word for word, but I believe he said, your day's gonna get worse if you don't leave. Then that's when he raised the gun up though and started like scanning the area.
So when you say he raised the gun up, I guess, can you show the court what you mean by that when you say how? Well, let me back up a second. How was he when he came out of the house? How was he holding the
The
shotgun?
gun was held down when he came out, but then when my boss walked away,
Was he holding it with one hand or two?
it was, he had one hand out like this, pointing down when he came out.
Let the record reflect the witness has motioned that he's holding his right hand at his side with, I believe, what would be the barrel pointing down, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
So noted.
okay. And so then when you say he raised the shotgun and started scanning the area, what do you mean by that?
He raised it like this and was scanning the area like that, and we started packing up all our stuff and turned around and
So just really quick, again, please let the record reflect the witness has just raised, like he's holding a shotgun with two hands and moved it back and forth horizontally across his body. So was the gentleman pointing the shotgun at you and your coworkers at that time?
never directly pointing it, but when you scanned it,
Okay.
went across us, but never stopped and pointed it.
All right, and when he said, when you heard him say, you don't get out of here, your day's gonna get worse or something to that effect, how did that make you feel at that time?
Threatened?
Okay, did you feel in your mind that he would actually use that shotgun?
Yes.
Okay, and then when he was, I guess, because I guess it occurred at the same time, but I'll elaborate, when he was scanning, as you put it, scanning with the shotgun, moving it back and forth, how did you feel at that time?
Scared.
Okay. So after he does that, what happens next?
He goes back inside. The other truck leaves with the other two guys. Me and my foreman get in our truck. He's talking to 911. 911 says stay put, but then I tell my boss and I'm not staying put, I'm gonna drive forward, get away. Then the gentleman comes back out and starts taking pictures or videos or something.
Okay. So at some point in this altercation, he went back into the house. Okay, and when he came back out, did he have the shotgun with him?
No.
Okay. I am going to show you briefly what has been marked as People's Proposed Exhibit 1. Okay. If you could just look at that photo really quickly. Do you recognize what's in that photo?
Yep.
Okay, and how do you recognize it?
That was the gun. Yeah, I just described it right to the officers because I saw it plain as day when he came up.
And I guess, so then is that a fair and accurate representation of the firearm you saw that day?
Yes.
All right. At this time, people would, I guess I'll ask the two, did you take that picture or no?
No.
Okay. At this time, the people would move for admission of People's Proposed Exhibit 1.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
This was why admitted.
Okay. And then you kind of already stated, but what is that a picture of?
Shotgun?
Okay, and is that, to the best of your knowledge, is that the shotgun or the same model of shotgun that you saw the gentleman holding that day?
Yeah.
Okay. You see the gentleman who pointed that shotgun, or who came out with that shotgun and was threatening you and your coworkers here in the courtroom today?
Okay.
And can you identify where he is sitting in an article of clothing he's wearing?
Jacket and tie over to the end of the desk.
Let the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
Any objection to identification?
No, Your Honor.
Identification is noted.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Cross exam.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, good morning, Mr. Is it Schiniver?
Yes, sir.
Just a few follow-up questions for you, okay? Can you do me a favor? First of all, I'm guessing this might be your first time testifying in court. Is that
Yes,
right?
sir.
Can you do me a favor? If you don't understand one of my questions, could you just ask me to rephrase?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So I want to get a little bit better understanding of why your crew was out on Rouse day in question here, April 24th. You used an acronym to describe the process that you were doing. What was that acronym?
DSMI?
DSMI?
Yes.
All right, do you know what that stands for?
Nope.
All right, it's just a term of art, you know, in your work, is that right?
Yeah, that's what the federal government makes us. Some acronym for them.
Okay, and you're searching for lead, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and so the day you were out there on April 24th, you're checking in the ground for lead in front of 311 East Rouse.
Lead water service.
Lead pipes, not like mineral deposits.
Lead water service.
Okay. Do you, and you mentioned something about going inside the house. Is that only if you find lead pipes on the outside?
No, the government has us check both sides of curb stop and where it comes inside the house, make sure there's no lead contamination.
Okay. Where it comes inside the
Where you gotta check inside the house, make sure where it hooks up to our meter, that there's no lead hooking to it.
Okay. So would you have had to have gone in the house that day? Or you or your crew?
They've been having the inspectors do it, our field inspectors. They've been making appointments to go inside the houses and do it set up an appointment and go inside and do it that way.
Okay.
That's the way we've been doing it.
Okay. Now, do you also have an appointment to check curbside?
They send out a email and a mail to notify that someone's been picked randomly from the state of Michigan, that we will check their curb boxes.
When you say email and mail, is that to Board of Water and Light or is that to the customer?
The Board of Water and Light sends it to the customer.
I see. On April 24th, when you were on Rouse Street, were you uniformed at all?
We wear our safety vest and hard hat, says Board of Water and Light. All of our trucks, they say they
Sure.
are on.
Now, at some point, well, you've identified this person as my client, comes out with what you describe as a shotgun, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And that's what's depicted in Exhibit A,
Yes, sir.
right? Originally, he had the gun pointed downwards.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then you describe him as kind of at some point raising it and scanning the area with the gun.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you speak with an officer at some point?
Yes, sir.
Did you tell the officer the same thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That he was, I guess, in your words, scanning the area with the gun? Not merely that he just raised it up?
Nope, scan it.
I have just one here. One last question, Mr. Schubert. Have you, prior to April 24th of this year, ever had contact with my client before that you can remember anyway?
Not to my knowledge.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Redirect.
Just briefly, Your Honor. And just a couple of quick questions. So, you were asked about, I guess, the process of the DSMI. On that date, on the date in question, did you or any of your coworkers you were with that day ever go up to the house or attempt to enter the house?
No, sir.
Okay. And then one just final for clarification, you said, when asked about how individuals are notified, you said they send out notification. When you say they send out notification, how?
Our office or someone in HR at the board water line.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
May this witness be excused?
For the purposes of preliminary exam, yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Scrivener. You're all set for today.
Can
Let me
I grab
advise you.
my exhibit again, just like that.
Oh, yeah, you gotta publish it anyways. Let me advise you, though, that there is a sequestration order, so you're not to discuss any portions of your testimony with any other witnesses, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can call your next witness.
Right, yes, Your Honor, the people would call Mr. Robert Segrist. And yes, Your Honor, I plan to publish after
Okay.
I'm done here. I just didn't want to sit up there when next witness comes in.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. You can have a seat, sir. There's a microphone that's in front of you, and right behind you is my court recorder, so she has to take down everything being stated in the courtroom. If you can make sure your responses are loud and clear and that they're verbal, we can't do head nods and shakes or uhs and ahs, okay?
Okay.
And then if there's an objection by either of the attorneys, you would stop your response. I'll make a ruling on that objection, and then I'll tell you if you can provide that response or not, okay? Oh, thank you. State your first and last name, then spell both of them.
Robert Segrist III,
Spell them both.
ROBERT SIEGRIST.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Segrist.
Good morning.
Mr. Segrist, how are you employed?
I work for the Board of Water and Light.
All right, and what is your position with the Board of Water and Light?
I'm a leader in the water department.
Okay, and were you working in that capacity on April 24th, 2023?
Yes.
Okay, and what were you doing on that day?
That day we were assigned to, we were given these random houses that we had to verify the water service material. So we were sent with a vac truck to suck down and just verify the material of these houses that we were assigned to.
So when you say verify the material, what do you mean by that?
Verify that if it's copper, if it's lead, or if it's plastic.
And what, I guess, what are you verifying that's?
Just to make sure that it's copper.
Well, no, but what is made of copper or lead, or what are you?
The water service to the house.
Okay, are you talking about the pipes or?
Yes.
Okay. And so, do you recall where you were working on that date?
Yes.
Okay, and was one of those addresses you were working at 311 Rouse Street?
That is correct.
Okay. And is that located in the city of Lansing,
It is.
in Ingham County?
Yes.
Was there anything that happened at that address that made, I guess that makes that day stand out to you?
There was.
And what happened that day?
I noticed by an employee that there was a homeowner that had come out with a weapon.
When you say a weapon, what type of weapon?
It was a gun, a shotgun.
Okay. And did that, do you know what address that individual came out of?
I think it was a 311 Rouse Street.
Okay. So when that individual came out and you were alerted by the employee, what did you do after that?
His stance to me was non-threatening, so I approached him and decided to let him know what we were doing to see if his demeanor would change.
And when you say, so I'm just going to back up for a second. When you say his stance was non-threatening, how would you describe the way he was?
He had the shotgun down to the side of him.
Okay. Would that be with the barrel pointing at the ground? Or
That is correct.
Okay. So when you approached him to let him know what you guys were doing, did his demeanor change at all?
Got worse.
When you say it got worse, can you describe that a little bit, please?
His attitude, he basically said he did not like the Board of Water and Light. He wanted all of our names. He wanted to get the F off his property.
When his demeanor changed, how did that make you feel at that time?
Threatened.
Okay. So after he tells you to get off his property, what do you do after that?
At this point, I had tried to explain to him what was going on. His demeanor getting worse, and I eventually had started walking away. I turned around, and he actually had the gun up like this, but he was not pointing at anybody. So at that point, I called my supervisor, then I proceeded to call 911.
Okay, so just to clarify for the record, because as the judge said, we're recording everything, so let's just let the record reflect that when the witness said that he had held the gun up, he had indicated that he had lifted it up, holding it, pointing left across his body with both hands. Okay. So did the victim, or sorry, did the individual came out with the gun, did he say anything else during this altercation?
He, at that point, when I had turned around, he had said, "You don't want me to make your day any worse."
Okay, and when he said that, how did that make you feel?
Even more threatened.
Yeah, did you, in your mind, did you believe he would use that firearm?
I did not know.
Okay. But would it be, I guess, would it be fair to say that you thought there was a possibility of that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So after you're walking away, he says this, what happened after that?
I told my crew to, two guys on the back truck, I told them to pack it up and get out. And like I said, I proceeded to call my supervisor and 911. And I had driven up the block and waited for the police to get there.
And during this, did the individual stay outside the whole time, or?
He was inside at the time. Then as we were leaving, he was taking videos and pictures of our vehicles.
And when he went inside, when he comes back out, does he still have the firearm with him?
He did not.
Okay. I'm going to show you I'm going to show you what has been admitted as People's Exhibit 1. Permission to approach here.
Yes.
And do you recognize what's in that picture?
Yes,
And what is in that picture?
that was the weapon that I had seen that day.
Okay. And do you see the individual who I should say, who had that weapon that day?
That gentleman right there.
So can you indicate for the court something he's wearing and where he's sitting?
The green jacket.
And where is he sitting in the courtroom? We need, we can't do points and stuff, so we need a verbal
What do you mean? Where is he
description,
sitting?
a verbal description of where he's sitting.
He's sitting, like, what do you mean a verbal
Okay.
description?
Uh,
To my left,
Okay, there we go.
he's sitting to my left.
All right, please let the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant.
Any objection to identification?
None, Your Honor.
Identification is noted.
Just 1 second. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Your Honor. Good morning. Is it Mr. Segrist?
Yes, that is correct.
I have just a few questions for you this morning. Can you do me a favor? And if you don't understand one of my questions, can you just ask me to rephrase it? Thank you. So back on the April 24th of this year, you were at my client's house doing work for board water and light. Is that right?
That is correct.
And you were, my understanding is looking for the, I guess, metal deposits to tell you what the,
No,
okay.
there were
please.
no metal deposits. Every house has a service, and it's either they're lead, they're copper, or they're plastic. So basically, we verify on the curb box, which the curb box is used to shut off the people's house if they don't pay their bill. We'll suck up in each side of the curb box and verify that it's copper, lead, or plastic.
So I guess, you're sucking up the dirt so you can visually
Yes.
identify?
Suck up the dirt 4 to 6 feet down, verify it. I'll take a picture for my report. Then we will backfill it with sand.
Okay, so you visually identify what is there.
What material that is in the ground. Yes.
And at some point, did you indicate to my client a need to go in the house?
I did. Along with verifying outside, I usually have to go inside and verify the material that is coming into the meter. So let's say it might be copper on the inside, but it might be lead on the inside. In that case, I just have to take a picture for my report.
Okay. In fair to say, he wasn't enthusiastic about that.
He was not.
Okay. Would you, presuming he had let you, would you have gone in that day, or were you setting an appointment to come in at a different time?
It depends on the homeowner's preference. It's either A, I give him a card so he can make a time that's better for them, or I go in there at that point. It takes a minute for me to take a picture and just verify it.
And fair to assume neither of those things happened on April 24th?
No,
Not fair to assume, or neither of those things happened?
neither of those things had happened.
Okay, thank you. And so my client comes out with a gun, same one you see in People's Exhibit 1, is that right?
Correct.
Initially, he had the gun pointed to the ground, correct?
That is correct.
All right, at some point, he raised his gun up. And I think you kind of gestured that it was maybe parallel with the ground, or maybe the barrel pointed slightly upward.
It was parallel, but I did not see him bring it up because my back was turned.
Okay, I guess, did you, and you testified you didn't see him pointed at anybody?
Did not. I did not see that.
All right, did you see him, you see the movie Scarface?
Yes.
Okay,
a long time.
Right, Al Pacino, like, back and forth with the machine gun. Did he make any motion like that?
I did not see that, because like I said, I was, at one point I was walking away from him. Then the next time I turned around, he did have it parallel position across his body.
Okay, and do you know about how long had elapsed from when you saw him pointing the gun at the ground to when he had it parallel with the ground?
It was probably within the 5-7 seconds that I had walked away from the gun.
Okay. Mr. Seegers, I think that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just briefly, Your Honor. So, Mr. Seegers, you said that part of your job responsibilities would have been to go into the house to see where the water supply comes into the house, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and that you approached defendant on that day to do that. When I guess in the timeline of events, did you speak with the defendant about entering his house?
It was probably right off the bat when I had approached him. I was letting him know what we were there for and what we were trying to do.
So was that, I guess,
Within the first probably 10, 15 seconds that I approached him.
Okay, just to clarify again, that would be the first time he came out of the house. And so when you approached him to discuss that, did he have the shotgun with him at that time?
Yes.
Okay. No other questions, Your Honor.
May this witness be excused from the stand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may be excused. There is a sequestration order, so that means you can't discuss any portions of your testimony with any other witness, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can call your next witness.
The people would have no other witnesses at this time, Your Honor, no other proofs. People would rest. If I may I approach and publish to the court People's Exhibit 1?
You may. Okay. Is the defense calling any witnesses?
Proofs, Your Honor.
Or is there a witness for the PA 53 violation?
There is, Your Honor. It would include at least the subpoenaed witnesses for the PA 53 violation were Officer Sarah Wilson and I believe Mr. Lance Schneeber was also subpoenaed for that.
You can call the witness on the PA 53 violation.
Okay. Just one second. People would, I guess, call Lance Schneeber.
Okay, you're still under oath to tell the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury, okay, sir?
Okay.
You can proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning again, Mr. Schneeber. Mr. Schneeber, I want to bring your attention back to, I guess, May 12th, 2023. Were you still working for the Board of Water and Light at that time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and do you recall where you were on that day?
At the, we were out in the field, but then we came in for lunch.
And when you came in for lunch, was that at a Board of Water and Light facility?
Yes.
And what's the, I guess, what is the address of that facility?
On corner of Penn and Hazel. Sorry, I don't know
Okay.
the exact address there.
During, I guess, during your duties that day, did you ever have reason to visit the Board of Water and Light facility? I guess it would be located at 1232 Keiko Drive.
I usually work out there every day after work.
Okay. Did you work out there on that day? Would have been May 12th.
I thought. Sorry, I can't remember. Sir.
Okay. Were you ever alerted to the individual? Well, I guess, did you ever learn the name of the individual who pointed the, or who, I guess, came out with the firearm?
Yes, sir.
And what was that name?
Nick Stone.
Okay, and did you ever learn, were you ever informed that Mr. Stone came into a Board of Water and Light facility?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and was that on a day where you were at that facility?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you ever, I guess, see Mr. Stone at that facility on that
I
day?
did not, sir.
How did you learn that he was at that facility?
The lady who took his talk to him and everything called over. She put it in the computer that he came to the board. And then it comes over to us too. Because I'm one of the union stewards. So then we had to go through our process.
And so when you say it came through the system, is that something that typically gets sent to you as the
Only if someone is flagged.
Okay, and what was the flag for?
This threatening BWL.
Okay,
It was from the previous interaction.
all right. And after you were alerted to this information, what did you do after that?
We notified our security, we notified the detective that was handling the case.
When you say the detective, is that a Lansing Police Department detective?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall the name of that detective?
Not top of the head.
Did you ever provide any, I guess, proof of this to the Lansing Police Department?
We emailed them the transaction, everything that he came in for.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-exam.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning again, sir. Okay, so on May 12th, 2023, my client came to a Board of Water and Light building, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right, now the Lansing Board of Water and Light, can you just kind of explain generally what that is?
Lansing Board of Water and Light, explain what it is.
Yes. What, it's a public utility provider, is that right?
Yes.
As an arm of the city of Lansing, is that right? Providing electricity and water service to the citizens of the city of Lansing.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, does a person within the city of Lansing have an option to have their electricity or water provided by another utility provider?
Not that I know of.
Okay. What was your understanding for the reason that my client came to the Board of Water and Light on May 12th?
To figure out a bill, they said, and to pay a bill.
And you were not there, correct?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
I'm across the street at the moment.
Okay. Now, a BWL customer could pay online if they knew how to do that. Is
They
that
can pay online, they can go inside the QD to pay, they can call and pay, they have drive-through things they can pay at.
how many, if you know, how many buildings does Board of Water and Light own in the city?
Not tell you, sir.
Do Do you know if my client had any reason to know that you worked in this particular building on Paco Drive? Do you, do you know if my client created any sort of disturbance while he was at 1232 Haco?
It's the lady
They-
said,
Do you know?
oh,
People would object to speculation on this.
Did you want to respond to the objection?
Yeah, I'm just asking him if he knows, and if he doesn't, then there's no foundation to move forward, and if he does.
I'll overrule the objection. You can tell to the extent that he knows. You know,
disturbance.
Yeah, do you have personal firsthand knowledge of whether my client created any sort of disturbance on May 12th?
Just the house phone.
Okay, so, and when did you report this May 12th incident to LPD?
I don't know the exact date.
Was it the same day or a few days later?
I believe 2 days later.
That's all I have, thank you.
yeah, so maybe, yeah.
Just briefly, Ron, although I didn't have these exactly marked, I didn't know we were gonna go right into it, so. Sorry, Aaron, just, At this time, Mr. Schneber, I'm gonna show you what has been, I'm not sure if they would be people's proposed 1 and 2 or 2 and 3 based on the hearing. They've been marked as people proposed 2 and 3. You could just look at those really quickly and then look up when you're done. And do you recognize those?
Yes, sir.
And how do you recognize them?
What we got from the interaction with Gina, and she emailed us. We got it offline to email to the detective.
Okay. And is that a fair and accurate representation of what you were sent?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, and I guess, are those are those notes from Board of Water and Light?
Yes.
And are those kept in the regular course of business? Is that something Board of Water and Light normally does, is make notes like that?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, Your Honor, people would move for admission of people's, what's been marked as people's proposed 2 and 3, and those would be for the purposes of the PA 53 hearing only.
Any objections to people 2 and 3?
No, Your Honor.
People 2 and 3 are admitted.
So what are people's proposed 2 and 3 that I just handed you? I know you kind of already explained it, but
Just someone comes in, they make notes and what they come in for and everything, and they had any issues with customer or anything like that.
and what's the name on those notes for the customer?
And Crystal.
And then what is the date of, are those listed?
512,
Okay,
23.
all right, and so just briefly, I believe on cross-examination, you stated that you were not in the same building that Mr. Stone entered, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but is that, to the best of your knowledge, is that building within, is the building you were in within 2,000 feet of the building Mr. Stone was in?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman, you may be excused.
Your Honor, actually, may I, because the exhibits weren't introduced
Sorry.
on direct, may I ask just a few questions?
You may,
And may I approach the witness just to?
you may.
Mr. Schubert, can you direct your attention to People's Exhibit number 3 there? Do you see where it says notes? All right, what's listed under notes?
Printed in the bill.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Can you repeat what you said?
Printed every bill.
Okay. Any other questions based on that?
No, Your
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sherman.
And then if I may come to the truth, because I have one more witness.
Yes. You call your next witness.
All right, yes, Your Honor, people call Detective Sarah Wilson.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is true to the best of your knowledge, information, or belief?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You can have a seat. State your first and last name and spell both of them.
Sarah Wilson, SarahWillson.
Did you see something?
Thank you, Your Honor. I think it's still. Good morning, Detective Wilson. Detective Wilson, were you? Are you familiar with an individual by the name of Nicholas Stone?
Yes, I was assigned to investigate an incident involving.
Okay, and what was that incident?
It was a complaint of a PA 53 violation.
Oh, and how did you proceed, I guess, with that investigation?
I was initially contacted by Sergeant Sword, who had been contacted by Jacob Sink, who's an employee of the Board of Water and Light.
Okay, and do you recall the date of that contact?
I believe it was May 12th, 2023.
Okay, and what were you advised was the nature of that that violation?
There were some concerns of social media posts believed to be made by Nicholas Stone regarding threats against the Board of Water and Light and employees, regarding a previous incident that had been reported to the Lansing police. Where he was reported to have pointed a shotgun at Board of Water and Light employees.
Okay. Was there anything else you were investigating as a part of that violation?
just what social media was available. And then I later learned that he had apparently come to the Board of Water and Light facility.
And when you learned he had, how did you, I guess, learn that he had come to the Board of Water and Light facility?
One of the original victims from the assault report had contacted me, Lance, I believe, and I apologize, his last name escaped me. He had contacted me about it though.
Okay. And do you recall the address of that facility?
It's on Paco Drive. Oh goodness. 12. I apologize. I would
Okay.
have to refer to my report. It's
Okay.
it's on Paco Drive though.
Okay. Sorry. Where exactly is that, if you can just give for the court a better idea, where exactly is that facility on Paco Drive?
Paco Drive crosses Pennsylvania Avenue, a little south of 496. From my understanding, the building he would have been at is a building where the public can come to make contact with employees regarding various matters or possibly pay bills, but it's down Paco Drive, east of Pennsylvania, short distance.
All right. And when you were investigating that incident, were you provided any proof that Mr. Stone was at that facility?
Yes, I received printouts of a Board of Water and Light record initially made by, I believe, an employee, Dino Real, stating that he had been at the facility on May 11th, I believe. And then she had made a separate notice, I think, to the Board of Water and Light Security because of the additional concerns regarding Mr. Stone.
I am going to show you what has been, I guess, admitted as People's Exhibits 2 and 3. You could just take a look up permission to approach.
Yes.
Are those the printouts that you received from Board of Water and Light?
Yeah.
No other questions at this time, Your Honor.
Cross exam.
Your Honor. Good morning, Detective Wilson.
Morning.
A few follow-up questions for you. So you said you, well, remind me, where did you receive those exhibits 2 and 3 from?
The employee Lance advised that he would have them forwarded to me. It was actually another employee who sent them, and I am not certain of his name at this moment.
And I guess did you have an understanding of what Mr. Stone's visit to Board of Water and Light was for?
Yes, I did speak to Jacob Sink again, and I think we indicate here he wanted his bills printed from the Board of Water and Light.
Okay. And this is at the address at 1232 Haco Drive?
1232 does sound correct.
All right. And did you at some point in the course of your investigation learn where Lance Schiniver's primary workplace is?
Yes, Jacob Sink informed me it would primarily be 730 East Hazel Street, so he could go to the other address on Hazel for training for that kind of thing.
Okay. Do you know how far 730 East Hazel Street is from 1232 Haco Drive?
I believe it's approximately half a mile.
Okay. Pop quiz time. How many feet are in a mile?
5,280
I
approximately.
think the court could take judicial notice that that's correct. And so half of a mile would be 2,640 feet.
Probably about.
And at some point, did you learn what Mr. Stone's bond conditions were?
Yes,
Okay, and he could not be within how many feet of a workplace?
I believe it was within 2,000 feet of this workplace.
That is. That's all I have for you. Thank you.
You redirect.
No redirect, Your Honor.
Thank you. Be excused. Any other witnesses?
No other witnesses at this time, Your Honor.
And there's no defense witnesses.
Actually, limited very strictly to the allegations of the bond violation. I would like to call my client. Statement.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're going to give is the truth and the whole truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You can have a seat, sir.
Good morning, Nick. A few questions for you, okay? And can you keep your voice up for the judge and the court reporter?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Did you in fact go to the 1232 Haco Drive Water and Water Light Building on May 12th this year?
Yes, sir.
All right, what was the purpose of that visit?
To get a printout of my bills from DWL for the last year and a half.
Okay. And is there a reason that you did that?
Yeah, my counsel advised me that I should go get a printout of my bills, so I did, yes,
Okay. And so you consulted with me about it before doing it?
yes, sir.
And was your understanding that I thought that was an okay thing for you to do?
Yes, sir.
That's all.
Cross-examine.
One second. No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may be excused from the stand. Any more defense witnesses
No, thank you.
to proceed to argument?
Before I start with the preliminary examination. Your Honor.
That's
Okay.
absolutely where I want you to go.
Okay. Yes, Your Honor, at this time, the people would move that this be bound over as charged in the complaint on counts 2, 3, 5, and 6. I believe the people have established by probable cause evidence that this incident occurred on April 24th, 2023 at 311 East Rouse, which both witnesses, Mr. Schnaver and Mr. Segrist, testified is located in the city of Lansing in Ingham County. Both witnesses testified that while they were there performing their duties as employees of the Board of Water and Light, the defendant, who both parties identified, came out of that residence they were working at with a shotgun and proceeded to make statements to both workers, to the workers, that caused the workers to feel threatened, and in their belief caused them to believe that Mr. Stone would either use that shotgun or we're unsure if he would actually use that. We had testimony from Mr. Schnaver that at some point during the altercation, the defendant raised that firearm and as he indicated, sort of waved it across horizontally across his body, not pointing it directly at any of the workers, but in the general direction of where they were working. This, I believe, would constitute under probable cause evidence an assault on those workers, causing them to feel threatened. As I said, I believe these actions would cause a reasonable person to fear or apprehend an immediate battery. That the defendant either intended to make both Mr. Schnaver, Mr. Segrist, and their coworkers fear an immediate battery, that Mr. Stone had the ability to commit that battery, and that he committed the assault with a dangerous weapon, i.e. the shotgun that both witnesses testified to. And so, Your Honor, I believe by probable cause evidence, the people have met their burden that the defendant, Mr. Stone, did commit an assault with a dangerous weapon on both Mr. Segrist and Mr. Schnaver. And due to the testimony that there was a shotgun involved in this matter, that the people have met their burden for both counts of felony firearm. So we would move that this be found over as charged in the complaint.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm asking the court not to bind the matter over to dismiss the 2 assault with a dangerous weapon counts, and by virtue of that, the 2 remaining felony firearm counts would also have to fall off, result in dismissal. The reason for that is, while I don't dispute that there was a dangerous weapon involved here, and frankly, I don't dispute that there was probably legitimate concern on the part of the 2 victims here, that the actions described by my client were not acts that would make somebody fear or apprehend an immediate battery. And I guess what we have here are 2 pretty, in many respects, similar versions of events, but in one key respect, very different versions of the events. Mr. Schnaver describes my client, he used the term scanning the area with his shotgun, waving it back and forth, while Mr. Segrist describes him as initially just pointing at the ground, which I think Mr. Schnaver corroborated. And then after about a few seconds where he has back turned to my client was holding the gun in a manner parallel with the ground. Importantly, that Mr. Segrist testified that he did not witness my client pointing the gun at anybody or waving it back and forth. And I think this is an irreconcilable difference in the testimony. I don't think the court should find Mr. Schnaver's testimony credible in light of Mr. Segrist. And if all that's left is a person holding a firearm on his front yard, first pointed at the ground and then in a parallel manner, I don't think that that's enough to constitute an assault. And I can understand being concerned. I've been downstairs at ground level while there have been Second Amendment protests at the Capitol when my office was just a few blocks from here. I understand concern being in the presence of guns, but that doesn't mean there was an assault. That doesn't mean there was an action taken by my client that constitutes an assault. And for those reasons, I think the court ought to dismiss. The people, I don't think, addressed the bond violation yet.
It's not germane. Dismiss it.
Okay. And so, just to reiterate, I'm asking the court not to bind the matter over. Thank you.
Any re-argument?
Yes, just briefly, Your Honor. Again, the people would ask that it be bound over as charged on counts 2, 3, 5, and 6. I believe from the testimony of both witnesses here, Mr. Segrist and Mr. Schnaver, that at some point during the altercation, the defendant said something to the effect of that if they did not get off his property, he was going to make things worse for them, or their day was going to get worse, or something to that effect. I believe that would cause a reasonable person to fear an immediate battery when there's a firearm involved. And just to address the other point that I believe Mr. Kuntz made is that while Mr. Schnaver said that the defendant was scanning the area with the firearm, Mr. Segrist said that he did not see the defendant point the firearm at anyone. However, he did say that as he was walking away, his back was turned, and when he turned around, that the firearm was then raised parallel to the ground. So I believe that by probable cause evidence, the people have met their burden and they would ask you to find this over as charged in the complaint.
It was the time set for preliminary examination, and the purpose of the preliminary examination is to require the prosecution meet their burden, which is to establish that they have sufficient probable cause in the case. So that's probable cause sufficient that a crime was committed and sufficient probable cause to charge you, Mr. Stone, with the crimes alleged. And so this is not a trial. It's not the time for them to prove your guilt by proving each element beyond a reasonable doubt. The standard today is relatively low. It's more than just mere suspicion that a crime was committed. And so I'll be the sole determiner of credibility of the witnesses today, but I need to measure the evidence that's presented today to determine the probability of the government's ability to establish guilt at trial. Today, we did hear testimony from two witnesses about an incident allegedly occurring back on April 24th, 2023 at the area at or near 311 Rouse Street, City of Lansing, Ingham County, State of Michigan, which makes venue in this court appropriate. We heard first from Mr. Schivener, testified that he was at that location and address under work requirements for the Board of Water and Light to perform a DSMI, which when described sounds like they're doing some kind of discovery search to confirm whether or not there's lead, and if so, requiring them to replace some equipment or materials. It sounds like there was some digging or some sort going on that he testified that he would not have been responsible for sending out notice that this would be taking place, but notice likely should have come from another department of the Board of Water and Light. Nonetheless, as he testified, he was performing his duties, work duties, and he said he was wearing, I think, a work vest and a work hat at the time that someone came out of that address with a shotgun. He identified that someone to be Mr. Nicholas Stone, that there was some words exchanged. The testimony of Mr. Schivener is that he was concerned for his safety, feared for his safety at that time, and that there was a statement made, something to the effect that Mr. Stone stating he hates or doesn't like the Board of Water and Light, requesting the workers to remove themselves from the property. Then we heard testimony from a Robert Segrist III. He testified he was present as well for the purposes of work for the Board of Water and Light, and that when the person he identified as the defendant, Mr. Stone, exited the property with a shotgun, he testified that he immediately did not feel or find the defendant's stance to be threatening, so he thought it appropriate to go and to advise the defendant as to what work or what was going on, at which point he stated that the defendant's demeanor changed, indicating he didn't like the Board of Water and Light, and that he would, "You don't want me to make your day any worse," was the statement that Mr. Seegers testified was stated to them, at which time the defendant shifted or changed the position of the firearm. The defendant in this matter has been charged. The people are moving to dismiss counts 1 and 4. Counts 2, the defendant is charged with assault with a dangerous weapon, that being a felonious assault against Robert Segrist. And then count 3, an assault with a dangerous weapon against Lance Schivener. To prove that at trial, the people would need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt first that the defendant either attempted to commit a battery upon either Mr. Segrist or Mr. Schivener, or did an act that would cause a reasonable person to fear or apprehend an immediate battery. A battery is a forceful or violent touching of a person or something closely connected with the person. Second, the defendant intended either to injure Mr. Charbonneau and or Mr. Segrist, or to make either of them reasonably fear an immediate battery. Third, that at the time the defendant had the ability to commit the battery, appeared to have the ability, or thought that he had the ability. Fourth, that the defendant committed the assault with a dangerous weapon, and a dangerous weapon is any object that is used in a way that is likely to cause serious physical injury or death. In this case, I think it's undisputed that a shotgun is a dangerous weapon. As to whether or not the actions articulated by the witnesses arose to the amount of a assault, I think it was clear as Mr. Schivener testified, and I agree there was a slight difference in their descriptions of what took place, but that only raises a question of fact for trier of fact for me. But the description given by Mr. Schivener was that he was immediately concerned and that he was immediately in fear for his safety, because someone who's seemingly upset or bothered is coming outside with a shotgun, yelling for them to get off the property. I think that a reasonable person would be apprehensive or concerned if they're on the premises or in the area performing work, and someone comes outside to encounter them, and they come with a shotgun in hand. This was not a protest of a Second Amendment right. This was work being done, and someone's coming out allegedly with a shotgun. Inherently would cause someone to be in fear that they're bringing the shotgun for a reason, whether it to be to use it or just to intimidate or cause someone to believe that they're going to use it, which would make that an assault. So as to count 2, assault with a dangerous weapon, as to Robert Segrist, he did testify that there was a non-threatening stance immediately, but that stance changed after speaking with him, and the demeanor changed, and that the position, it was testified, at least by Mr. Schivener, the position of the shotgun was moved, even though Mr. Segrist had turned his back to walk away and he may not be able to see. There was testimony sufficient to support that the position of the firearm had, or the shotgun had been changed. The court is satisfied that there is sufficient probable cause as to count 2 and count 3 of assault with a dangerous weapon. And so both counts 2 and 3 would be bound over to the circuit court for further prosecution. Counts 5 and count 6, which both are weapons, felony, firearm, respectively. To prove that at trial, the people would just need to be able to prove the person had physical control of a thing, as I would do holding this pen right now. I have physical control over this pen. They don't have to prove ownership of the shotgun, and that the person knows the location of the firearm and has had reasonable access to it. In this situation, possession may be sole where one person alone possesses the firearm, or possession may be joint where 2 or more people share possession. The allegation is that the defendant used a shotgun in commission of counts 2 and counts 3. The court is satisfied as to probable cause for counts 5 and count 6. So those will be bound over. Count 4 and 1 are dismissed by motion of the prosecution. The bind over date is the 12th, correct? No, it's the 13th. Have I been putting the wrong date on things? It's the 13th. The bind over date is going to be the 26th of July. You do not need to appear in court on the 26th of July. That's the date that the circuit court is going to get the file from the district court, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
your next court date is gonna be a pretrial in circuit court, because you don't need to be rearranged on this once they get this case there, unless for some reason Mr. Coates is making a special motion to have you rearranged. Mr. Coates will be made a bit aware of your next court date. You remain in contact with him. As to the bond violation, I'm gonna dismiss it. It's more or less semantics. You were not to be within 2,000 feet of wherever the alleged victims live, work, or go to school. They work for the Board of Water and Light, which I think is indicated or alluded to by Mr. Coons. They have multiple facilities. They could be working anywhere. They could be working down the street from your house, like somebody's property, probably, you know. So you got to use some good judgment when it comes to operating under this no contact order, so that you don't find yourself with any violations. I think it's reasonable that you would need to get, or you have the right to get, your bills. And you were advised by your attorney to go to the location to get that. No reason for you to believe that you would have encountered someone from the Board of Water and Light that does field work at that time. And it sounds like you did not encounter them, and that there was no disruption while you were there. You were there to handle business, and you handled your business. I am going to, however, remind you of the no contact order. And although you're not to be wherever they live, work, or go to school, I recognize they work for the Board of Water and Light. So if you do know that they're working at a specific location, obviously you're not to be within 2,000 feet of that. That doesn't preclude you from being able to handle your business with the Board of Water and Light. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any additional matters for the record today?
Nothing from the people, Your Honor.
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Bond will continue, and here is your exhibit. Yes.
Your Honor, I did root for the Patriots in every single one of their Super Bowls that they appeared in when Tom Brady was their quarterback. But that's because I'm a Michigan fan.
That sounds like it makes you a Patriot fan too.
For a long time, they were one of my backup teams because I always have to have a few on rotation as a Lions fan.
Yeah.
I guess.
What's the matter? You're not a big fan of MCDs?
Oh, I love NCDC. Yeah, it won't be long where soon I won't need backup teams.
I will admit I was not a Tom Brady fan, but I will take any Boston team over any New York team today.
Are you from New York?
No, I was born and raised here,
Oh.
but I just, when it came down to the mid 2000s and it was Yankees and Red Sox constantly in the